Part 3. My husband's ex-wife showed up at our door claiming that she had his baby, then his double life started unraveling and now he is begging for reconciliation. The houses were drowning in debt, just like everything else in Jake's life. But selling them felt like exorcising ghosts, letting go of the physical spaces where so many lies had lived. Sarah has found happiness with David, a kindergarten teacher at her school who looks at Emma like she's the most precious thing in the world. He comes to our support group meetings sometimes, wanting to understand what we've been through so he can better support Sarah. Watching them together, I see what real love looks like: honest, straightforward, no elaborate excuses or mysterious absences. The support group Sarah and I started has flourished beyond anything we could have imagined. What began as casual coffee meetings between two betrayed women has grown into a registered nonprofit with over 50 active members and chapters opening in 3 other cities. We've named it Truth After Betrayal, or TAP for short. Every week, we hear news stories of other master manipulators like Jake, men and women who construct elaborate double and triple lives, leaving behind a devastating trail of emotional and financial destruction. Some stories hit frighteningly close to home. There's Rebecca, whose husband maintained 3 separate families in different states for 12 years, only discovered when he had a heart attack and all 3 wives showed up at the same hospital. Or Michael, whose girlfriend of 8 years turned out to be married with 4 children, running an entire parallel life he knew nothing about. Each story in our group adds another piece to the puzzle of how these skilled manipulators operate, helping us all recognize the warning signs we missed in our own relationships. Last week, we were interviewed by a major news network about relationship fraud and the growing epidemic of digital deception. The producer, herself a survivor of a similar situation, said our story might help other people spot the warning signs before it's too late. The episode is set to air next month, and we hope it reaches others who might be trapped in their own versions of the nightmare I lived through. Update 4. 1 year later, and the woman I see in the mirror is finally someone I recognize again. The dark circles under my eyes have faded, and I've stopped flinching every time my phone rings. Jake was sentenced to 15 years in prison for a laundry list of charges: fraud, embezzlement, bigamy, and financial exploitation. The prosecutor said it was one of the most sophisticated cases of relationship fraud she'd ever seen. During the trial, we learned even more about the extent of his deception. He'd been living this way for most of his adult life, creating and discarding identities like worn-out clothes. Before Sarah and me, there had been 2 other women in his previous job, another elaborate scheme that fell apart when one of them discovered the truth. He'd simply moved to a new city, changed jobs, and started over with a fresh set of lies. He's tried to contact both Sarah and me from prison multiple times. The letters come every few weeks, each one thicker than the last, filled with what I imagine are explanations, apologies, or more likely, new lies. We return them unopened, marked "Return to Sender" in bold red ink. His words have no power over us anymore. The therapy and support group have helped me understand the psychological mechanics of what happened. Dr. Morris explained how master manipulators like Jake operate. They're emotional vampires, feeding off the trust and love of others, incapable of forming genuine connections. The person I thought I married never existed, he was just a carefully crafted character in Jake's ongoing performance. Sarah's wedding to David is next month, a small, intimate ceremony in her parents' garden. Emma, now almost 2 with her mother's laugh and her stepfather's gentle nature, will be the flower girl. I'm helping with the planning, and there's a beautiful irony in the fact that I'm now using my wedding planning spreadsheets and vendor contacts to help create a celebration of genuine love, not deception. As for my own love life, I'm dating again, but with the wisdom that comes from surviving betrayal. My new relationship with Chris, a civil engineer I met through my brother, moves at a pace that would have seemed glacial to my younger self. But there's something beautiful about the slow unfurling of trust, about taking the time to verify and validate before giving your heart away. I do background checks now, would have saved me a lot of trouble with Jake, and I'm not afraid to ask difficult questions or voice my concerns. Chris understands my need for transparency and meets it with patience and openness. He shares his location with me voluntarily, introduces me to his friends and family, and never makes me feel guilty for double-checking his stories. When he says he's working late, he sends me pictures of his desk covered in blueprints. When he goes out with friends, he adds me to their group chat. It's not about control or mistrust, it's about showing respect for my past experiences and helping me rebuild my capacity for trust. Our support group continues to evolve and grow. We've expanded our services to include financial counseling, legal advocacy, and even a partnership with a private investigation firm that offers reduced rates to our members. We're working with law enforcement to help them better understand and investigate these cases, pushing for stronger laws against relationship fraud, and developing educational programs for high schools and colleges about healthy relationships and red flags to watch for. Looking back, there were red flags I chose to ignore. The frequent business trips, the separate phone for work, how he never wanted me to surprise him at his office. But Jake was so convincing, so seemingly perfect in every other way, that questioning him felt wrong. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that real love doesn't require secrets. A partner who truly loves you won't ask you to accept mysterious absences or unexplained behaviors. They won't have elaborate excuses for everything. Sometimes I wonder if Jake ever really loved either of us, or if we were just characters in the story he was telling himself. But I've stopped trying to understand him. Some people are just broken in ways we can't fix. Sarah and I joke now that Jake's greatest gift to us was each other. We've become best friends, and Emma has a loving aunt in me. We've turned our pain into purpose, helping others and sharing our story. Life has a funny way of working out sometimes. What seemed like the end of my world became the beginning of something meaningful. Yes, Jake shattered my trust and my heart, but he couldn't break my spirit. I'm stronger now, wiser, and surprisingly, happier than I've ever been. To anyone reading this who suspects their partner is living a double life, trust your gut. Don't ignore the red flags. And remember, you're not alone. There are people out there who understand what you're going through and want to help. And to Jake, if you ever read this, I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Your lies no longer have power over me.